Philadelphia News, team of my heart.
Sixers fans, brace yourself. With Joel Embiid facing a major offseason surgery and Paul George underperforming, the Sixers are staring at a summer of uncertainty. Could a blockbuster trade with the Suns be the answer? Sixers news and trade rumors are heating up, with talks of swapping George for Bradley Beal. Both stars are locked into huge contracts, but would this deal actually help Philly? If George is truly declining, is Beal the better option? Get ready for the latest updates, analysis, and the decisions that could shape the future of the franchise. Don't miss this Sixers news update. Drop a comment. Who would you rather see in Philly? Paul George, Bradley Beal. A trade that nobody expected, but one that just might make sense. You've seen the Sixers battle through a brutal season, but now the real fight begins off the court. With Joel Embiid's future hanging in the balance and Paul George struggling to live up to his massive contract, the Sixers are staring at a crossroads. And guess what? The Phoenix Suns might be in the exact same situation. Bradley Beal's time in Phoenix, a disaster. The Suns are barely hanging on to a play-in spot, and with a massive payroll, they're looking to clean house. Kevin Durant could be gone. Head coach Mike Budenholzer on the hot seat. And Beal? He holds a no-trade clause, meaning he controls his fate. But if Phoenix wants a fresh start, they need to find a way out of his contract. That's where the Sixers come in. Paul George, at 35, is no longer the dominant force he was with the Clippers. His scoring has dropped by over 6 points per game. Injuries have kept him off the floor. And with 4 years left on his $214 million contract, Philly is asking the tough question, is he worth it? Then there's Beal. His contract isn't much better, but it does expire a year earlier. He's younger. He's still a capable scorer. But does that make him a better fit for the Sixers? If Philly believes George is washed, this trade starts to make sense. But would Phoenix bite? If they think George can bounce back, he might be a better option than Beal moving forward. It's a gamble, but one that both teams might have to consider. But here's the bigger question for you. Is this the move that finally gets the Sixers closer to a championship? Or is it just swapping one bad contract for another? Drop a comment below. Would you trade Paul George for Bradley Beal? You know, this isn't just about swapping names on a roster. It's about the Sixers' future, about whether this franchise can still compete at the highest level, or if it's stuck in a cycle of bad contracts and wasted seasons. Paul George was supposed to be the missing piece, the perfect partner for Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. But instead, he's been a shadow of his former self. The explosiveness, fading. The consistency, gone. And now, after yet another injury, you have to wonder, is this the player you're paying over $50 million per season for the next 4 years? Meanwhile, Bradley Beal has his own baggage. His stint with the Suns has been anything but smooth. He's battled injuries. His role has been unclear. And with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant dominating the offense, Beal has often looked like an afterthought. That's not the Beal who once averaged over 30 points per game in Washington. That's a player trying to find his place on a team that never really needed him. But in Philly, things would be different. Here's what you have to consider. Beal isn't the player he once was either, but he still brings a dynamic scoring ability, and more importantly, his contract expires a year sooner than George's. That 1 year might not seem like much, but for a franchise trying to maintain flexibility, it could be crucial. It could be the difference between being stuck in a bad situation and having a real chance to pivot. The question is, does Beal fit with the Sixers' long-term plans? You've seen how much this team depends on Maxey's growth. He's the future, the rising star that Philly is betting on. Bringing in Beal means adding another high-usage guard, another player who needs the ball in his hands to be effective. That could take touches away from Maxey. It could slow down his development. It could create a backcourt that lacks the defensive presence the Sixers desperately need. But what about George? If you're still holding out hope that he can return to his Clippers form, then maybe you're willing to ride this out. Maybe you believe this was just an injury-plagued season and that a full off-season of recovery will bring him back to being the two-way force he used to be. But that's a huge gamble, and at 35, time isn't on his side. There's another angle here. To Joel Embiid, his future is the biggest unknown in all of this. He's already dealing with a major injury, and if he's not 100% next season, everything else becomes irrelevant. You can't build around a player who isn't on the court. If the Sixers believe Embiid won't be the same dominant force he's been in past seasons, does any of this even matter? Does it make more sense to focus on a younger core, on surrounding Maxey with players who fit his timeline rather than chasing a win-now move that might not even work? And what about the Suns? They have their own problems to solve. If they're serious about breaking up their roster, a George for Beal trade might be the cleanest way to make a change, without completely tearing things down. But if they see George as just another injury-prone star past his prime, why would they take that risk? There's no easy answer here. If the Sixers believe in George's ability to bounce back, they might just hold onto him and hope for the best if they're ready to move on. Beal could be the answer, but is he the right answer? If the Sixers pulled the trigger on a Paul George for Bradley Beal trade, you have to ask yourself, does it actually make this team better? Or are you just swapping one overpaid, injury-prone star for another? Beal is still a talented scorer, but he's not the same player who once dropped 30 a night for the Wizards. Injuries have slowed him down. His defense, never a strong suit. And with his contract, he's not exactly a bargain. But if the Sixers believe George is completely washed, at least Beal's deal runs out a year sooner. That gives you a way out, sooner rather than later. But here's the real problem you're talking about to players who are past their prime. This isn't a trade that turns the Sixers into instant contenders. It doesn't solve the biggest concerns surrounding the team. It doesn't fix the Embiid situation. It doesn't guarantee George bounces back or that Beal suddenly regains his all-star form. It's just a lateral move. If you're going to make a trade, it has to be one that actually changes something. A move that gets you younger, more athletic, or gives you a clear financial advantage. It's just shuffling the deck. But maybe that's all you can do right now. With Embiid's future uncertain and George locked into a massive contract, your options are limited. You can hope George turns things around, or you can take a chance on Beal. Neither option is perfect, and neither one guarantees a deep playoff run. So, what do you think? If you were in charge, would you trade Paul George for Bradley Beal? Or would you keep George and hope for a bounce-back season? Drop a comment below, your take matters. And if you want to stay ahead of every Sixers news and trade update, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This offseason could shape the Sixers' future for years to come, and you won't want to miss a second of it.